I'm Daniel Lentz. I have a leadership development curriculum. You need this and you got to have it right now. It's all about me. It's all about my revenue. And I launched this website and nothing happened. Nobody was reading my blogs. Nobody was reading my guides. My sessions on my website weren't really high. And so the reason that I came to you is to figure out how do I have all of this stuff, but now what?
I'm so stoked about this because I think you and I are really similar. Like we both are just like
Yep.
go at it and just all in. And I always get
Yep.
so excited working with people who have that energy because it's like, I mean, I don't know, day 2, you messaged me like, all right, finish the whole course, implemented all of it. It's like,
Yep.
yes.
Yeah. And I'll never forget the response back too. The response back is like, Daniel, I don't know if you should have done that. And then it was, never mind, Daniel, that was really good. Keep going and I'll adapt to you and I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And so of course I'm just sitting here laughing going, or I start questioning going, oh, should I have done that? Should I not have done that? Well, it doesn't matter. Steve's an action guy, so I'm going to move forward and we'll just see what happens. So
Yeah. I
I
know.
think that was probably the funniest thing.
That was hilarious once you mentioned it because I'm like, now I understand your personality more. In the moment, I was like, wait a minute, I shouldn't tell him to stop. He's going.
Right.
But yeah, I've always been so sensitive to the program overwhelm when you join a program and they dump like a million things on you.
Yeah. And that's what was really cool about, when I first joined that, you basically outlined everything in such a way where it was never overwhelming. I mean, there was stuff to do for sure, but it wasn't one of those things where you didn't have any direction.
Yeah.
Where you jump in and you go, okay, well, Steve's not talking to me. I don't have a point person. I'm in this random group. I don't know what any of that means.
Yeah.
And so I think that was really helpful from the
Well,
get-go.
yeah. I mean, obviously, we're going to talk about personality and behavior types, but that's the problem is like everyone approaches joining an experience like that different. And so it's so hard to cater to everyone because some people want all the info organized in a document. Some people don't want to read anything and they're like, don't even talk to me. I'm just going to figure it out. And then all in between. And I remember when I joined a program, I think it was back in November, I actually had to like get out my giant whiteboard and I went through all the different like welcome modules and emails and put it all because I have to see things visually in one spot. Like I can't make sense of it when it's in an email and a thread and a DM and a text. And it's like, so I felt so much better once I put it on the whiteboard and I could see it in bullet points in one place. But that's my brain,
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Let's start for our YouTube audience. What is it that you were stuck on in your business, in your career that brought you to Business Builder? Kind of like, I like to think of it like an opening to a book, or I just saw the Odyssey last night.
Oh, nice. Yeah, how was that?
Oh, it was amazing. It was so epic, but it was tiring. Like it's very loud and intense the whole time.
Yeah.
My buddy was like, yeah, it's kind of like one of those water slides where the water's just pounding you in the face every time you wipe it off. So, but paint the picture like that because it was like it was a hot start. Like they jumped right in and they put us in the action. Give us that, like paint the picture of where you were at, what you were feeling, all that.
Yeah. So
and introduce yourself along the way.
Okay, yeah. So my name's Daniel Lentz, and I own a leadership development company called Leaders Advantage. And really what we do is we have a proprietary behavior assessment where we predict behavior and then we help individuals understand themselves and then understand others on their team. And then we have a tailored leadership development curriculum that we take to the behavior of the team. And so once everybody has that understanding, we're teaching leadership through behavior. And so initially when we started talking, my background is in marketing. It's all marketing. And so I was so focused on the processes, getting HubSpot up and running, getting the landing page, getting the copy, getting the forms, making sure that I had all the welcome sequences and series and making sure all of those things were completed first. And I'm not really a sales guy, just by nature. I'm more of a marketing and the sales is for the experts. All I'm going to do is I'm just going to build it and then everybody else can come in and can sell whatever the programs are or the services or whatever the case. And so based on our conversation, where I was really stuck is getting that very first client. And I think that's the reason that I wanted to have this conversation with you is just what can Business Builder offer to me? How can you guys help me get that very first client? And so part of what that struggle was, I had the CRM, I had everything ready to go. I launched the website in January and I was doing a lot of cold outreach.
Mhm.
And my mindset was all about the selling.
Mhm.
I have a leadership development curriculum. You need this and you got to have it right now. It's all about me. It's all about my revenue. And so here I am in all my glory. And I launched this website and nothing happened. Nobody was reading my blogs. Nobody was reading my guides. My sessions on my website weren't really high. And so the reason that I came to you is to figure out how do I have all of this stuff, but now what?
Yeah.
What's that next step?
Yeah, which is such a common mistake I made as well, where we start and we focus on all these things like building the website. And essentially, subconsciously, we're thinking like, if I build it, they will come. And what I came to realize myself, and then seeing it with so many coaches and business owners, is what we're doing is we're focusing on the things we can control because it feels better. It feels good to make a website. It feels good. I mean, I even have a business owner I partner with who I caught him doing this like the last few months. He just goes in the room in the morning, closes the door on his laptop all day, building because that's fun. That's in his
Mhm.
control. No clients coming in. It's like, well, and then he's complaining. It's like, well, yeah, because you were just building a website. No one cares.
Exactly.
No one knows about it. No one cares. No one's connected to it. And it's just such a common mistake of where we place our time, not just like the fact that you were building a website, but like where we place our energy because
Mhm.
we default to the easy. So yeah, that's actually helpful that you say that because I know so many people are stuck in that place and don't realize it yet.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too is I didn't understand what selling looks like because
Yeah.
we view selling as transactional. And I think a lot of times we even use relationships transactionally.
Hmm.
And I think that's part of the problem. And that was something that I was unaware of because I thought that's what sales was. It's all transactional.
Yeah.
And we've had conversations that have drastically changed that perspective.
Well, I'm glad to hear because, my big insecurity putting myself out there on social media, having a business is that my friends and family would think that I'm that cringy sales guy that I always hated.
Hmm.
I mean, I despised anything that even smelled like sales back when I was in the corporate world. And now sometimes I'm like, man, I've gotten so comfortable with it. I hope I'm not the guy that I hated. But I think it's because it's become a passion and something I teach because I wanted to overcome that. Like, I don't want it to be just transactional. I don't want it to be cringy. I don't want to offend people. I want to do it in a very human way. But like business is based on sales and selling. And so we have to figure out how to do this, but there's got to be, it's always felt like there's got to be a better way.
Yep. And I think that's where I was stuck
Yeah.
is because when you're selling these cold emails, you're saying that one liner. Hey, look, if you lose 20 or half an hour a day, then this is this or sorry, if you lose 30 minutes a day, you have these leadership challenges. This is how much money you're losing. I've worked with Fortune 500 companies and I've given revenue back. And people are going, so, and people are saying, I've gotten that same email 50 times this week.
Yeah.
And
I always
so,
say, like, well, your DMs are a great example. I mean, just anytime open as a business owner, you've got them, like, open your DMs, read the last five from these random cold sales outreach people,
exactly.
and you'll know exactly how it feels on the receiving end. You're like, I don't know who you are. Now I think you're a total scam artist. And you're just
Hmm.
like, hey, got 5 minutes, Steve? And I'm like, why would I even open that? Let
Right.
alone like buy something from them.
Yeah, and I think you position it well is it's all about trust. And so then you have to think about, okay, well, how do you build that trust in that moment?
Hmm.
And then you start questioning, well, are cold emails the way to go? Is this the way to go? Is that the way to go? And I think after we talked, what was really interesting to me is, and we've talked about this with your assessment with my hardwired on how you
Uh-huh.
trust and things like that. When I was able to tell you, here's what I trust, you were able to position it in a way and made me almost feel like this isn't a sell for me. There was never this idea of, well, Daniel, you need to do this and this overpromise, this exuberant idea of here's what I can do for you. It was
Hmm.
all about me.
Yeah.
And I think that's where that position kind of changed.
I love how you said that. That really is the major shift of mindset and tactics is it's all about them. I mean, I even had somebody who used to be in Business Builder message me today with their new website. And immediately when I open it up, I'm like, it's all about you. No one cares about
Hmm.
you. No one cares about
Yep.
your business. And I learned a lot of that from Donald Miller and Story Brand. I love that stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
It's so true. And so I think that's the main shift that you named is it's for me trying to book you as a client. It's all about you. And you're right. So you actually named something really interesting. A lot of times trust building takes time. And it's like, well, you got to watch a lot of my content. We have to have a
Yep.
number of conversations maybe. But for you, it was accelerated and super quick, basically in the context of like 2 conversations and a couple DMs because you highlighted the things that build trust for you. And so I could then like fill in those gaps. So
Yep.
that's actually interesting. Like trust can be built fast too if we know how to focus on them.
Right. And I think it all has to stem from behavior as well, because even in our conversations, when I was looking at you, I was going, okay, well, Steve is going to trust movement. And so I have to consistently be moving alongside him so
Hmm.
that we can build that relational equity. But I think, and I even remember the conversation. I mean, I was vulnerable with you and going, hey, look, I have this business. I don't really know what I'm doing. I don't have any clients. I'm really trying to figure out what the next step is. I think all my marketing material is good. And I just remember you looking at me going, what really matters to you?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember telling you, I need the first client and I need a repeatable process. And
Yeah.
I need somebody who's going to act more as a mentor to me, somebody who's going to walk me through the program or some offering that you have that's going to lead me to what I deem the promised land.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that moment too because it clarified for me what we need to actually talk about. And I think that's the fatal flaw we make in marketing and sales when we just throw our thing at them and it's like,
Yep.
here's my product, here's my service, here's what I do, here's why it's great. And it's like that might not be answering their true inner questions at all.
Yeah, and I think for you, where I felt really cared for about your whole process is the flexibility that you provided, because it was never like I was going through a script or through the system.
Mhm.
And I think that's where a lot of business owners make a mistake is let me get you in the system and let me actually change that ecosystem. If I can get you in the ecosystem, then you can follow this boilerplate and then I win. Hopefully you get something out of it and then we move on and you go do your thing and I'll go do my thing.
Yeah.
But even in our conversations, it was more about, hey, Daniel, talk to me about you. And then you were even, because I remember you saying things like, well, this is kind of what I'm doing, but here's how I think we can tailor this to you.
Mhm.
Okay, well, that builds trust with me because now I know I'm not getting something boilerplate.
Yep.
Well, Daniel, here's another idea that I have for you. And then you consistently brought me in and it was mutually beneficial. And I think that's where, as soon as I was hearing that language and understanding what your goals were and your goals were my goals,
Uh-huh.
then that accelerated the trust. Almost immediately.
That's so
Because
cool.
I don't know if you remember or not, but I signed that night.
Yeah.
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 And then the next morning, you sent me a message and go, Dana, I'm so glad you're here. Now, here's what we got to do. You got to get in the Slack channel. Here are going to be all the classes. Here's going to be your point person. I want you to engage here. We're going to have this other meeting. And so now I have this process where I go, not only did Steve tell me he was going to take care of me, from the beginning, now he's actively doing the things that he said he was going to do.
Yeah, right
And
away seeing that pay
and
that
so
fruit.
now trust goes, oh man, now Steve is actually doing what he said he's going to do. And
Yeah.
then it's continually checking off those boxes going, he said this in the beginning, he's doing it. He said he was going to give me a process, he's doing it. He said he's going to give me a point person, he's doing it. And so now we have all these validation points where trust is being
Yeah.
magnified.
I love that. I worked for a number of years at Capital One, and every year the CEO would give a full day long talk. We'd go to a theater, he'd be on stage, and that sounds boring, but it was riveting because he was the founder. He was basically the inventor of the credit card. People don't know, and he hangs out all day with like the top economists and politicians, the people in the world. So it's like he's got all this crazy cool insight,
Mhm.
and he's an entrepreneur who's got a $50 billion company.
Right. Yeah.
And so it's like, it was riveting to me. I was taking gobs of notes. And one of the things he always came back to, he would say, brand is a promise that when delivered creates trust. And it was
Mhm.
like,
Yep.
yes, because how many coaching programs and things like what you and I do you join? Like there's all these promises and then you join and it's like none of the promises
Exactly.
delivered because they're
Exactly.
just focused on sales. And it's like that is just that kills the brand and the loyalty and the word of mouth. So, okay, let's do this. Tee up for the viewers like give me just maybe a couple highlights of some of the light bulb moments or breakthroughs you've had that we want to
Yeah.
cover, and then we can kind of dive into each one.
Yeah. So I think the first light bulb is the sales process and changing from transactional to relational. I
Hmm.
think that was a huge, huge light bulb for me. I think secondarily is what is in your head is not always able to be articulated. And so that would be, I really want to spend a lot of time focusing there because
Okay.
I think like a lot of business owners, they have all the knowledge in their head, but the way that they present themselves or articulate themselves
Hmm.
to other people, I think there's a disconnect there more often than not. And I think there's an amount of humility that has to be, or that one has to have in order to execute, especially in the business builder program.
Okay. Yeah, we'll dive into that one for sure. Any others that we should hit on today?
Let's think. I mean, I think those are kind of the two macro perspectives, or sorry, like kind of the big picture ideas. And I think
Yeah.
everything really falls underneath those two things.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, let's start with the most important one. I mean, we've been talking a bit about transactional to relational. So, yeah, say more about like where did this realization come from that what's in your head isn't always communicated that way.
Yeah, and so I'm going to talk about kind of before the program and now during the program because
Okay.
I think this is going to be just the way that I think most people can really comprehend.
Okay.
Before the program, I was that guy where I would talk about how good my assessment was. I would talk about how good my curriculum was. And I have all these tools. And you and I have talked about this. I have a tool where I can take leadership challenges and I can discuss with you about your organization, figure out how much money your organization is losing. And that was ingrained in my head, all about ROI, ROI, ROI.
Uh-huh.
And so for a lot of the time, I sit here and I'll go, Steve, you're losing $2 million, man. If you would just hire me, I can give you $1 million back and we're all good and you're happy and I'm happy. And what I've learned through an exercise that you and I did with business development is people don't always care about the ROI. People have different thoughts, they have different fears. And I think when I was able to understand that, it really changed the perspective about how
Mhm.
I go about selling. I'll give this example. I met
Yeah.
with a company and it was with two individuals. They were a landscaping company. And I was meeting with the director of HR and the director of training. And in that meeting, we started off and I had this tool ready to go and I was telling them all about my assessment. And they stopped and they said, Daniel, we have an assessment. And I had just spent the first 10 minutes talking about the assessment. And I went, well, now I'm in trouble. And
Yeah.
then I said, well, let me wow them with this Excel spreadsheet that I have. And it's going to do all these cool things and tell you how much money you're losing. And then I'm really in. And as I'm going through this, what I'm finding is that they don't really care about that
Yeah.
at all. And they have these fears within their own ecosystem that I didn't ask them any questions about themselves. I didn't ask any questions about the business. I didn't ask any questions about what would really help you in your organization. I didn't understand any of that. And
Hmm.
then when I started getting into the business builder curriculum, we talk about the trust cycle. We talk about, understanding your clients, understanding your audience, and then understanding the messaging and how you deliver that. And so after our business development role play, you and I spent about an hour together and you took on the role of that HR director. And I remember I was walking you through and we probably got 5 minutes in and you said, Daniel, you have not asked me a single question about me and my business. You
Hmm.
haven't asked me about why I need leadership development. You haven't discussed with me what would make my life easier. What kind of training are you looking for? What problems are you facing now? And I remember when we did the role reversal, what ended up coming out of that is that you were really the questions you were asking were all about me. And I just remember sitting there laughing. And I
Yeah.
don't know if you remember that.
Yeah.
And I sat there and I went, my goodness, because I felt so cared for in that moment. And the way that you were explaining things and drawing the insights out of me, then you were taking those insights and then you were applying my offers
Hmm.
to those insights. And I
Yeah.
think that was really important for me to see.
Well, thanks for sharing that. Yeah. That is a really cool breakthrough. Something I realized when I became an executive coach is the riskiest part of an interaction with a client is when you make an assumption about their
Hmm.
thoughts, because you dive the energy if you're wrong.
Yeah.
Now, instead of we're together, like it's so hard to get where we're on the same page, we're together. And then as soon as I assume what you're thinking, and in your head, you're like, that's not what I'm thinking, it creates a gap and a divide. And now I have to work to get back because now
Yep.
you're actually on the defense against me. And you don't, a lot of times it doesn't feel like you're on the defense, but in terms of like the psychology of it, you're on the defense because I'm saying something that's not jiving with you and you're
Hmm.
having to like defend against that in your mind. And so now we're at odds. And it's
Right.
like this is the classic mistake that a coach would make, is making an assumption about what they're thinking instead of asking. And so you're right, that's it's what's so funny to me is it's such an easy mistake to avoid if we just ask.
Yeah,
It's just ask, "Oh, hey,
exactly.
so what are you feeling stuck on?" Instead of assuming, "I think you're probably stuck on this."
Yeah, and I think that that comes back to your business as a whole, and I think a lot of business owners do this, is they have, we measure these 5 KPIs, we have these classes, and we're trying to almost push that onto the assumption that we've created. And
Mhm.
and when you're constantly doing that, people feel like you're a pushy salesperson.
Mhm.
But now if you're telling me exactly what you're going through and exactly what you're feeling, now I can say, okay, well, what solution would help you here?
Yeah.
And then when they're telling that, they're basically going to repeat back to you what your programming is.
Yeah.
And then it's a much easier divide there. And I think we talked about this example about, a child that's scared of the water,
Mhm.
and you're walking around the pool, right? And so a lot of times we're sitting there going, yeah, well, I know that you're scared of the water. I get it. It's really deep. It's this, but don't worry, I'm here. Well, now you've already told them about this fear and you've assumed this, and a child might go, well, I want to be in the water.
Yeah. I love the
And
water.
and then you're sitting there going, well, wait
Yeah.
a minute. And just like you said, and now you're going, oh, you're right. It's not really scary. Don't worry about it. It's okay. And I think a lot of times as business owners, that's what we do. Instead of
Mhm.
saying, hey, we're going to go down to the water, and waiting for that reaction for
Yeah.
them to go, that's exciting. Or, well, that makes me nervous. Okay, well, what makes it nervous? Like,
Yeah.
why are you nervous? Well, I'm nervous because I know there's a deep end.
Yeah.
And then it's, well, are you scared of the shallow end? No. Well, why not? And so now what we're doing is we're painting this beautiful picture of what is okay, what is our green light, if you will,
Mhm.
and then, or our green flags, and then what are these red flags here? And
Yeah.
then now, how can I walk you through the red flag?
Exactly.
And if I can walk you through this, I can only do that by not making assumptions, like you said, and then understanding that person and allowing them to figure that out.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Now that I know deep end is the problem, we can focus there and I can
Yep.
share. Now, this is the whole like objection handling part. Now I
Yeah,
can share why the deep end isn't so scary and what I do to help you with the deep end. And it's like,
exactly.
but yeah, we might assume, well, everyone's scared of the deep end if they're a kid. Actually, this kid had an experience in shallow water where he saw a shark and he's deathly afraid of shallow ends. It's
Yep.
like, I mean, you don't know. And I think this is why we call it coach before the coaching, not sales. Because if
Yeah.
we approach sales with a coach mindset, we never have to sell again, ever,
Yep.
because they sell themselves. We're just guiding them there. And then we're saying, hey, all right, I can help you with that if you want. Here's how it works.
And I'm really glad that you talked about the coach before the coaching, because part of the other shift from the transactional to the relational side, like I stated before, is that view this as a coaching session,
Uh huh.
meaning that as I'm going through this, I'm essentially viewing this meeting as an opportunity for me to showcase what I'm really good at.
Hmm.
Because if you can see that, then you believe in it. And I mean, and I think we all work like that. I
Yeah.
mean, just think about like, Steve, what's the last thing you bought for
Uh,
yourself?
This thing, man, by the way, business owners, the El Gato.
Okay,
Uh,
so the El Gato, right? When you went to buy that, what was your process in figuring that out?
well, I heard from a couple other coaches they loved it and it made running workshops and stuff online easier. So I went to Amazon first, just curious if they have it because it's a specific brand. They did. And then I went through like reading all the product specs to make sure I had the right one because I'm always scared with tech that I'm going to get the wrong
Yeah,
one.
right.
And then I went back, double checked what one of those coaches said. All right, this is the right one. And then I just hit buy.
And so, but it was on Amazon, so it was
Yep.
a free return, right?
Yep.
So great. So as soon as you get this in, you're going to try it out. You're going to test it out. And I'm sure you did that because we've had
Yep.
conversations about testing tech, right? And you do that, but you experience it. And once you experience it, it takes all the weight off.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than, okay, well, Steve, you're going to spend $300 on this thing. There's no returns. And then now you're sitting there going, okay, well, now I'm extra nervous. And so I think the way that I'm viewing the meetings that I'm having now that's much different is that I'm not viewing this as hard sell. You got to get the program. It's more of here is my opportunity to showcase to you by coach before the coaching. This is my opportunity to showcase my skill set. And if I can hook you on the way that I'm walking you through this, allowing you to see for yourself how this might be helpful for you. And by me building relational equity, by understanding you and you experience that and have a good experience, that's going to lend itself to just future business. And that might not even be with that person. It might be with another introduction. It might be with feedback. I mean, there's a variety of different ways it could be helpful for us. And you have to go in with that mindset of being open to the success, not singular in the sense of if I don't get a signature, this is a failure.
Yeah. Yeah. Say a little more about that mindset shift. How did you experience that?
Well, I think now that I'm having meetings and I'm having these discussions, I set my expectations that they're of how I'm defining success.
Mm-hmm.
And so, for example, I met with a business owner last week, had a great conversation, but here's the way I went in. I went in going, I might be able to help his business. I might be able to get a referral. I might be able to get some feedback on how I'm speaking about my business. And I'm just building relational equity so that he might think of me in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And so so that takes all the pressure off. And I think that a lot of times in sales, we have this pressure of, my goodness, here's our $100,000 client. Here's our $20,000 client. And we go, goodness, I got to say the right thing. I got to do the right thing. I got to act in a certain way. And we went to breakfast and I just said, hey, now I would just like to share a little bit about what I'm doing.
Yeah, exactly.
And it opened the conversation to where he goes, and he gave me some feedback. And then what happens is he started asking me questions about my business going, well, what are the 5 KPIs that you measure? Okay,
Yeah.
well, here's what I measure. Man, you know what? I'm kind of phasing out of my business right now, but here's where I struggle a lot. I struggle with productivity of my team. What do you mean you struggle with productivity? Well, I struggle with productivity because I feel like there's something lacking because I'm pretty hands off. So now I'm asking them, well, do you think people need more hands-on training? Yeah, they do. Well, how do you identify that? I sure wish I had a tool to do that. Well, and then, and of course I'm like almost a lazy salesman. So I draw that out further and I just say, what have you used in the past? And then he goes, well, you talked about my hardwired. Would you mind telling me a little bit more about how that could help me? And now he's asking me to help him rather than me even promoting anything that I've done.
Yep.
And then we leave that. And Steve, here's how we left it. He asked me about my programming, wanted me to send him a proposal. So I sent him a proposal. He said, hey, I know a couple other people in the community that I would love for you to talk to. And now he gives me 4 names of people that he wants me to interact with. And then lastly, he said, Daniel, I'm just so proud of the work that you're doing. It was a long time family friend of mine. And he said, I would just love if we can just start connecting regularly. So I've now built relational equity with this. I can help him in his business. And now I can help people that are close to him. I mean, what else can you ask for?
I know.
There was no pressure.
Yeah.
And all that I did was follow the script from Business Builder. I mean, that was it.
Yeah.
There was no pushiness. It was not about me. It was all about him. And so everything that we've done as far as positioning, the conversations that you and I have had, the outlines that you provide, the BD sessions that we've done, all of those things rolled up and came to fruition in a 30-minute conversation.
I love it, man. Yeah. And that's fulfilling for me too, because I'm wired as an experimenter who goes out in the world. I don't really have much fear of risk and trying stuff. So I want to go try everything. I want to I want to try everything. I'm an Enneagram 7. They say we can hold like 100 times more information than most people. And that doesn't mean I'm bad at memorizing books. I was terrible in school with that, but I can go experience stuff and soak it all up. I don't get
Yeah.
tired. So that's like what I've been doing for 10 years. Go try it all, fail on all
Yeah.
these accounts, and then bring the things that actually work. That's why I always say the 80-20 rule. It's more,
Yeah.
to me, it's more like 99-1. It's like the one of what actually works. I mean it. It actually works. and
Yeah.
so and so you're right. Like this is two incredible benefits of what you shared is one, you feel better as a coach because most of us don't like being pushy in sales and like we don't like that feeling of okay, now I got to convince them to give me money. So you don't have to be a salesperson. Like you said, they sell themselves, but then they feel better too because they were the ones inviting, hey, tell me about that. Hey, can you tell me how it works and what it costs? So now it feels like it's on their terms and they're in control, which feels so much better as a buyer than like, oh gosh, they pushed that on me and then buyer's remorse. Like, did they like trick me into something? Should I have done that?
Yeah. No, exactly. And I think you touched on something too about when people want to feel in control.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to, and it's hard for us. We talked about that earlier about we want the control of the website. We want the control of the form. We want and we like doing things that we can control.
Mm-hmm.
But what we don't understand is that when we submit control, we actually gain the control back because what we're doing is we're allowing people to go, I need this. This is what I need to do. This is how I need to do it. I want to give you references, or referrals. I want you to tell me how to solve my team problem. I want, us to meet regularly. And then all I have to sit there and do is go, okay, how do you want to do it?
Yeah.
Well, Daniel, I don't know. You have the leadership business. Okay. Well, here's how I would do it
Mm-hmm.
if I were you, and I would do it in this way. Okay. Well, Daniel, what offers do you have to do that? Oh, well, I'm super glad you asked that because this is what I've been waiting on, because
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you.
Yeah.
And then now everybody wins. And I can't tell you when I left that meeting, Steve, how fulfilled I actually was.
Yeah.
It was no pressure. It wasn't difficult. And all we were doing is building relational equity. At the
Yeah.
bare minimum, that was the expectation. And then it gets exceeded every time.
I had a coach yesterday. He calls it the hot girl. What is it? He calls it the hot girl sales. And it's like, it's basically playing hard to get. It's like the law.
Yeah.
I remember in college, Econ 101, I had to take it as part of my engineering degree. And it was like the one class I totally bombed, but all I remember is the law of supply and demand. And it's like decrease supply, increases demand. And I mean, that's true. That's true and at play as well. If we stop being desperate, then suddenly they want it more. And I think that it is a powerful move because as a coach and consultant, we also need to maintain authority to be effective in our job. So if from day one in the sales process, we're just kind of vomiting all this authority out the window because we're so desperate and begging, then what kind of footing do we have in the relationship if they start working with us? Nothing. And I think what you did there was just such a like A+ great example.
Yeah.
And flipping that script, that was awesome. All right, gosh, there's so much I want to talk about. So, okay, let me go back to the topic there was around like it's hard to articulate verbally into them the way that we are thinking of things in our head. There's a disconnect.
Yes.
Anything else you want to say on that topic?
Oh man, so much. I mean, I think this is what cleared it up for me. So, when I first said, okay, Steve, I'll dive in with you. I'm going to be cautious, but I'm here. I'm here to play. I'm going to play hard. I'm going to be Mach 10 with my hair on fire. I'm going to take all the classes. I'm going to take all the information. A lot of your processes are pretty simple. And what I mean by that is the questions that you ask, a lot of business owners would say that they know it. For example, who's your audience? What, Steve, I know my audience. This is elementary. I'm paying you this much money or X amount of money for you to talk about my audience. Steve, I've been doing this for 10 years. I don't, or 1 year or 6 months or, whatever the length of time is. And people go, well, I know that. And that's what I was talking about with, do you have enough humility to say, do I?
Yeah.
And I think that's where where Business Builder changed everything about the way that I view business. Because now, or prior to Business Builder, if you were to ask me, Daniel, who's your audience? Well, my audience is, manufacturers and, education and healthcare and all these things. But now my audience, I help multi-level organizations, period. Okay. And then you say, okay, well, Daniel, what do you do? Oh, well, I have a 12-week curriculum. I do this, my hardwired for teams. I do individual debriefs and comparison and this and that and the other. And I have all these things. And it's no, Daniel, what do you do? Well, I help those multi-level organizations protect profitability. Okay. Well, Daniel, how do you do that? Before, why this, that, and I do all these things and these things are all good. And it's like, Daniel, no, what do you do?
Yeah.
And then I go, well, I do two things, Steve. The first thing is that I predict behavior and I help other people become self-aware of them, as individuals and then understand their teams. And I help them predict that behavior of their team. Okay. And then the second thing I do is then I use that behavior and all of those insights, and then I have a tailored leadership development curriculum for them. Well, that sounds a whole lot better than me rolling around talking about my offer stack and this and that, and I do this. And so now I've taken everything in my head and I've streamlined it in a succinct way where people go, okay, I'm not a multi-level organization. No problem. I'm not the guy for you. Hey, but I can help you because I have a reference or a referral for you. Right.
I mean,
go ahead.
Well, it's just so helpful. Such a great example. You nailed it, because now it's about them, and the previous version was about you.
And also, even in the process, you said this in a video, and oh my goodness, I tell everybody in my life about it. You say, Daniel, if you don't believe in the process, in your own process, nobody else is going to believe you anyways, or either. And I think that's so true. And so now I used to say, I'm going to come into your organization and do discovery, and we're going to do this, and then we're going to do this other thing. And oh, by the way, and now it's, look, I have a 5-step process. Here's what I do. I do this, 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 period. And what that allows for is for people to go, okay, well, you say that you're going to, use these insights. What kind of insights are you drawing out? Now we're back in the game where they have the control.
Yeah. It's Alex Hormozy calls this sell the Dream Island vacation, not the plane flight. And there's all kinds of different metaphors for it, but I like that one because we can all understand that. We don't want to buy the plane flight. We don't even want the plane flight if we can avoid it, but we want to get to that destination. And it is easy as coaches, consultants to talk so much about our tools and process because we love it. We're obsessed with it. We're good at it. It's what we think about. It's what we do. But they don't care how they get there. They want to get to the outcome. Like no one cares about my trust cycle who's a stranger online. They care about freedom from a business they love and helping clients transforming their lives. And then like the how I get them there comes next. I think that it took me a long time to recognize that order and flip it.
Yeah, and I think that's part of what Business Builder has offered to me is, and the path is great. That comes secondarily. But I think to your point, what was really helpful to me is I needed to really put down on paper who my audience was. I needed to put down on paper, what do I actually solve? And like you said, what is the outcome of that? And so that's why in my, 5 Ps, I'm not going to give away the whole thing here, but that's why I say up front, here's what I do. I help you protect profitability. That's what I do. And so now people are in that mindset of, okay, Daniel can help me solve, or Daniel in some way can help protect profitability. Now I have a million questions. Well, how do you do that?
Yeah.
Well, now I do that by these 2 ways. And so now people are dissecting what that means. Because they're going to have fears. They're going to have concerns. And so now it allows them once again to be in the driver's seat where they're driving the narrative.
Yeah.
What do you mean by, and I leave it like that because I want them to ask me, what is profitability?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't really know what that means to you yet. And so tell me, do you even have leadership challenges?
Yeah.
Well, I do. Now they're telling me one of 5 or multiple of the KPIs that I already have in my head, but I've put them down on paper to where now, and you do such a good job. What's the program that you use? Not Motion, but the mind map one.
Oh, Miro.
Miro.
Yeah.
That's, for all the business owners that I know, I think once they get into Business Builder, it's almost like the Miro. And what I mean by that is that you have all the processes you need. You have all the scripts that you need. And when you're in that conversation, all you're doing is mixing and matching.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like I was helping a leader yesterday prep for investor meetings because their company is fairly big and they're looking to sell it. And I had him practicing with me. And I kept doing the timeout thing that I always do with people. Like, hold up, because he did a run-on sentence and he explained like basically there's like three levers that they're pulling to get advantage in the market. And he's like saying them all in one big paragraph. I'm like, you lost me. I'm
Yep.
bored. I'm thinking about my weekend plans now. Like I'm gone, man. And this is a very experienced person who's sold multiple companies before. Like what you need to do is what I've learned from Instagram.
Right.
You have to have a hook and then you have to
Yep.
have stretching the gap. And so you say a hook, something they care about the outcome they care about, and
Hmm.
then you stretch the gap by creating mystery. So I was like, you got to say it like this. All right. So we have had a 18% increase in profitability this quarter because of three main strategies we're doing. Period. Let
Yep.
them ask, wait, what are the strategies?
Exactly.
It's all the psychology of like now because they asked, they care more about the answer. It's their thing.
Hmm.
It's their brainchild. It's their baby. Like, do you care about the other 86 kids on the beach or your kid? You care about your
Right.
kid. And so if it's your question and your idea, now they want
Hmm.
the answer. If he just spit out all three strategies from the beginning, they don't give a shit. And it's like
Yep.
this shift, man, I find so many business owners are doing this wrong. But like it really is the one of the benefits of doing content. You start to learn because you have this much time to hook people,
Exactly.
keep them interested. And then it helps our sales, it helps our client delivery, it helps the communication in our marriages and our friendships.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's what's really interesting is that when you learn that or learn to be ambiguous
Mm-hmm.
but direct, that's the golden goose,
Yeah.
or golden goose nugget. I don't know what they say these days, but the
Sounds
golden
good to
goose,
me.
but that's how you win.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I leave it ambiguous in a lot of areas, but it gives you enough context and enough to where you can ask intelligent questions. But I think
Yeah.
as business owners, a lot of times we want to sell, 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 sell because we believe in how good of work we do.
Mm-hmm.
That's the difference. Because even if I talk to you, you can say, Daniel, this is really great. And this, you got to do this. And this is, and I'm sitting there going, yeah, 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 yeah. And then at the end of the day, I'm like, okay, well, that was a great conversation with Steve, but I'm not really ready to do that.
Yep.
But if I can be invested in something, and I talk about this a lot. I do the Socratic method, where allowing people to arrive at the decision on themselves. That's where people have the buy-in because they have to have buy-in in the conversation. And
Yeah.
what buy-in looks like is not nodding along, saying that everything looks great. Buying in is getting them to invest in the conversation for their own selfish needs,
Mm.
desires, wants, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, so good. And I want to call something else out here because if there are
Please.
for the business owner watching this who's like really feeling all of this and it's resonating, I think what I've come to see working with hundreds of people now is there's a pattern that we're all very good at our craft,
Hmm.
but our craft doesn't matter if we don't have clients to do it with. And so you know your story is a good example of this. Like you are so good. I mean, I've done so much personality assessments and debriefs and people. You're like the best I've ever seen at debriefing and helping people connect the dots between assessments like that and profiles and their day-to-day behaviors in life. So it's like you got that down. So I just want to call out to viewers, like notice that for 51 minutes now, we haven't talked at all about that craft because you got that on lock. And so many people have the
Right.
craft on lock. What we need to work on is that front end of the process of actually landing clients and getting them over the starting line.
Yep.
So we know how to get them over the finish line. We got to get them over the starting line. And to your point, that comes from helping them commit to taking action for themselves.
Exactly.
And what's always amazing to me is, our clients, before they're clients, they want the transformation we offer, but they're not committing to it because it takes work and it's change and change is hard and we're busy and we've got a million emails in our inbox. So like
Hmm.
80% of our job is to get them over the starting line to do the thing they already want to do.
Yep. Exactly. And I think that's where most people fall short. And because it goes back to the comfortability that you talked about earlier. We're really good about talking about the craft. We're really good about talking about how good we are. We're really good about showing them that this can add ROI for them. We're really good showing the value that it brings. What we're
Hmm.
not really good at is the relational equity side and building trust in a 20 to 30-minute conversation where they can feel invested and feel cared for.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. So let me ask this
Sure.
because I mean, we could go for hours. This is fun. Are there other things on your mind that you really want to talk about in this conversation?
Yeah. Let me think. I really want to talk about some of the beliefs of
Mhm.
business ownership
Mhm.
that I had, and just to kind of harp on that. And then I would also like to talk about some of the accomplishments that have felt the most meaningful
Mhm.
through Business Builder so far.
Let's talk about just a few other things. One being beliefs, business owner beliefs.
Yeah.
I know this is something that you've had a lot of thought and some light bulbs around.
Yeah, I think just I would love to share with you about how I came into the program
Mhm.
versus where I'm at right now.
Okay.
And how I came into the program, it was all about here's, Steve made me this offer. Let me just kind of do this. Maybe I get something out of it. Maybe I don't. It's going to be X amount of time. I can do some things. And, if I learn something, that would be great. And then as I was preparing to go through the class, and just join in the community and all these types of things. My mindset was all about making money. How can I make money? And how can I do it as quickly as possible? And I think what I've learned, and I learned this very, very quickly, is you have to trust the process. And there is a process in Business Builder. And a lot of people will skim over things and go, well, I already have that, or that doesn't apply to me. And what I've learned is that if you trust the process, you'll see fruit of the process. And I think the value of community in Business Builder was something that was really new to me, because as an entrepreneur, we tend to be lone wolves. We tend to be the people
Mhm.
that go, well, I can do it on my own.
Yeah.
And I remember the first thing that you told me is, Daniel, you got to get involved in the community. And you know this about my colors for my hardwired is that I don't put a high priority
Right.
on collaboration. And it was a stretch for me. And just the other day, I put a message out and I said, hey, I have this idea. I would love some feedback. And of course, and I think I did it late at night. I think it was like 7 p.m. or 8 p.m.
Yeah.
And I didn't get any feedback immediately. And
Yeah.
I'm an immediate guy. And I sat there and I went, oh my gosh, I
Yeah.
knew I shouldn't have done
I
this.
was
This
wondering,
is,
by the way, I knew you're feeling that, and I was gonna jump in. I was like, I'm gonna let it sit and let some others jump in first,
yeah.
which was funny for me too, because I that was hard for me too.
Yeah, and I just sat there and I went, Steve, he wants me to get involved in this community. This is not for me. I hate this. And then now, everybody has come to offer an opinion, some feedback, direction. And it just really, I come to find out I can't do this by myself. I got to have a community. And Business Builder is that community for me. And so, kind of all over the place, but let me kind of tighten this up a little bit. The first thing is just community.
Mhm.
That you got to take care of the people that are in your community, especially in Business Builder. You have to build those relationships. You and I have built, I think a great relationship. We've been having a lot of back and forth and doing a lot of conversations and learning a lot. But I also think with other people too, building those relationships, and then now that's translating into how I do business.
Mhm.
And I think that's really, really important for me. I think the other thing that's really important to me about how I view business is it's all about relational equity with those individuals. And so transitioning from these transactional relationships to these relationships. And it's funny because we're in the relationship business,
Yeah.
and so much of the time we forget that. And then I think the last thing that has really changed is just how I view my business and what I do. And what I mean there is that instead of focusing on all of my products and offerings and services and all those types of things, I'm viewing my business as an opportunity to help people that
Mm.
need it.
Mhm.
And how can I make an impact on other people? An impact on other people does not equate necessarily to impact of financial gain. And
Yeah.
I think that transition for me was really hard to do. But now that I've actually done that, it's been extremely helpful for me, because now I'm viewing people as, hey, I can really help you in your business, and I can help you succeed.
Yeah.
And I think that's the mission statement of what we do as leadership development consultants, or, helping or business coaches or whatever else. That's the business that we're in, but applying the business that we're in to how we serve other people. And it's just servant leadership at its finest.
I'm so happy to hear those things because I can see I I've learned over the years, I had a coach that said, "You need to trust your gut and move faster because your gut is almost always right, Steve." And I'm like, that is one of my strengths is my intuition. And so I'll notice these things. Like I just see it with you. Your business is just going to crush it. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
And it's so fun to see that journey with you. I want to say two things to highlight the 3 points you made because I just landed $100,000 client this week, and I didn't get it how you would think. It wasn't the person I was talking to when we closed the deal. It wasn't the person that introduced me to them or the person that introduced me to that person. It was 4 connections back. A person that I knew 10 years ago from work who said, I'm going to make some connections for you. And then she didn't for 2 years. She finally made this connection to somebody. We met, we talked, everything you said earlier. I just shared about the business, what I'm doing, no pressure, not trying to make them my client. They introduced me to someone else. Same thing. They introduced us. And then here we are years later. And now this person bought $100,000 offer. And it's like, if I was putting pressure on each of those conversations along the
Yeah.
way for them to be the client, it wouldn't have worked. It's like what you described so well, like the backing off and the relax and just trust the process, because it's the 6 degrees of separation and you eventually get there. And so in the large scope, I look back, I'm like, it happened faster because I pulled back that way and trusted the process. The other thing you were highlighting is the inflection point. It's so hard early in business and kind of as we're starting to grow, we don't feel the growth. And so we're putting in the reps and we're doing the right things. And we don't feel the growth because 1 + 1 = 2. Like, 2 is not that much more than 1. 2 + 2 is 4. That's not that much more. And then one day you hit the inflection point where it's like 100 + 100 = 200. And that growth you feel. And so I've seen this with other businesses and felt it now myself. We have to like take heart and remember that in the early stages when we're putting in the reps and not seeing and feeling the results yet. Because one day, and I can't wait to celebrate with you when it happens in your business, the inflection point comes and then it's like rocket ship ride. No, we're not doing anything different after the
Yep.
inflection point. It's just
Right.
math. It's just time. And it's like the compound effect. And then one day it starts to be noticeable.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So I'm excited the inflection point is going to come quicker for you than most. But, right now, you're right. It's trusting the process, putting in the reps, even though on the other end of it, you don't yet like feel the result that you will a couple years from now. All right, let's talk a bit about accomplishments. And you've
Yeah.
already had a bunch. I mean, you've had some big wins already since we started working together. But what's on your list?
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll kind of talk about just some of and I want to frame this by saying, I haven't hit the $100,000 client yet, and that's okay because it's about progress over perfection, right?
Mhm.
And so I think that the micro accomplishments are equally as important because, like you said, that's where the reps are. And so I think first and foremost, it's getting a succinct picture of my business.
Mhm.
I think that was so informative for me because it changes how I speak about the business. It changes the content that I have about the business, my website, my Instagram, my YouTube channel. It changes everything about that because when you change the mindset from that transactional to relational, when you start to understand the business, when you start to understand who your audience is, how you solve the problems, your offers, your offer stack, how you're going to position that, your messaging, how you're going to speak about that, and then how people are going to consume your content. All of that rolls into being able to nail your niche. And I think that's where I was talking about the humility, because a lot of times people don't see the big picture. They see this as, I know my audience, I know this, I know that. But once you have all of that in writing, it drives everything for you. And you don't have to sit there and think. You don't have to take the time and go, well, am I doing this right? Do I need to call Steve? It makes decision making easier because you know exactly what you're supposed to be doing. You know how you're supposed to be doing it. And now you're just repping it out.
Yeah.
And I think that was one of the biggest accomplishments that I've taken. I think the second biggest accomplishment is getting the reps in with real people in real time, because I was failing before Business Builder. I wasn't getting the meetings. People were sending me to spam. People were saying not interested. People wouldn't meet with me. And then now, the way that I just frame the conversation, people go, absolutely. You need me to, you need my opinion about your business? Sure, happy to do that. Oh, you need a referral? Hey, no problem. Hey, you just want to share a little bit about your business? No problem. And so now I'm sitting here going, all these people really want to talk to me. And what I found is it's just a business builder process. And it's just framing. That's it. And we think about that as so simple and so naive and elementary. And we're going, that doesn't work. And I'm just here to tell you that just by framing the question differently
Mhm.
is the difference in closed door versus open door.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. The nuance is
Yeah.
everything with this stuff. I mean, you're right.
Hmm.
We think, oh, I know that. And yet we're not getting results.
Yeah.
Why? The why is usually because of those nuances, the tone, the timing, the part of the process. It's not quite, a big one is people are like, well, they're not giving me referrals. When do you ask them? I ask them at the end of the engagement.
Hmm.
There's your problem. The timing is
Hmm.
everything. People don't feel on a high at the end of the engagement. They feel on a high at the beginning. But the status quo that we've all learned is to do it at the end, and that doesn't work. So it's yeah, all these little nuanced things. You're right, which is why I love sharing from experience versus studies and data. I love studies and data. I tend not to teach from those because I'm like the
Yep.
nuances in the experience of it. But then, that's what makes it apply to people in the same niche. My advice won't
Right.
work for somebody selling baseball bats. Like,
Yeah. And I think this would be even fun, Steve, just for you is, I mean, do you remember when we started talking about you and the behavior assessment for you? Do
yeah,
you remember how I framed the conversation on that very first call when I said, "Hey, Steve, we're going to talk about this, this, and this, and here's what I need for you." Do you remember that?
I do.
And
And
how did you feel when I was upfront in the very beginning and gave you everything that you needed to know?
so great because you laid out where we're headed in the conversation, which to your point that you described to me in that conversation was that's my internal wiring needs that. And so you were tailoring the conversation to what I needed.
Right.
And you probably kick off other meetings differently based on the people you're talking to, which is like the genius of your assessment.
Right.
And you can actually tailor it to me. So now I feel great. I'm super engaged. And you're right. Like one of my biggest frustrations that you helped me realize was when I have team members in particular is where it frustrates me who come to a meeting. I'm putting aside an hour of my time and it's like, we need to get these things done. And they come with either no thought prepared or worse, they don't really lay out like, here's what we're doing in the meeting.
Yep.
So quite literally, as we speak, I literally just hit decline on a meeting from a team member who's been doing this to me because I'm like, I know that the meeting goes nowhere and
Yep.
there's no clarity of what we need to do and it's not said at the beginning, so it'll end up being a waste. But
Yeah.
you're tailoring that to each individual person based on my hardwired.
Right. And I say the reason that I asked that is because that's what Business Builder has done for me.
Mm,
It's allowed me to take the process and think to myself, okay, how if I'm meeting with this individual and I'm preparing for this meeting, I need that constant reminder, A, that it's not about me, it's all about them. How can I serve them? But even with the scripts that we do have, how are we using those in a flexible way in any given action or in any given conversation that we can apply the things that we've learned from Business Builder to that conversation so that we can open the listening to the conversation and we can get that buy-in.
yeah.
And I think that's really the key differentiator for me about how I've started to believe about business and think about business because it has just changed really everything. I mean, I've redone the website, I've redone the content, I've redone my pricing structure, I've redone my offer stack. And when I've refined all of those things, I'm thinking about it completely differently in the shoes of the individual that I'm talking to.
Yeah.
And even the feedback I'm getting right now is, Daniel, I feel like you're talking directly to me.
Yeah.
And that's
There you
and that
go.
was the ultimate compliment for me is I'm sitting here going, wow, well, good. I hope so, because if it's about me, Steve is going to absolutely rip me because he's going to go, Daniel, you're not listening to what I'm telling you,
No,
so that's
that's the
always
proof.
fun.
That's the proof right there. So yeah, just
Yeah.
keep doing exactly what you're doing.
Yeah.
So any other like tools or processes or anything in Business Builder that have been impactful for you?
Yeah, I'd just say three things. The first one is it has to do with planning. The business accelerator, the weekly business accelerator, I
Mm,
think is really helpful. It allows all of us to come together, that collaboration, right?
yeah.
Relational equity. But the planning that was super helpful is the way that you focus on me. And you do this by in the group setting, we talk about quarterly planning. You take that planning and then we immediately go one on one. And then you say, okay, Daniel, here's what we talked about in the planning. What were your takeaways? What are your thoughts? Here's what I think you need to focus on. And I think the way that you learn about our business, you understand the business, and then you take all of those insights with your process or with the business builder process. And then now we're having conversation about how can we create that actionable plan.
Yeah.
And that's where I think the differentiator is for you, is that it's not this boilerplate, do this and then, call me. It's, hey, Daniel, I'm available by Slack anytime. Here's my number. Call me anytime. We can jump on a meeting anytime. I'm here to help you. And I want you to be actionable in the things that you're doing, because we have to be able to measure that,
Yeah.
which lends itself into some of the tools that you have, which I love, like the content calendar. Being able to plan that out. What's the topic? What are we going to talk about? Short form, long form. Is it going to be a new email sequence, core video, whatever the case may be? There's there's tools in place
Yeah.
that direct that, even down to the six degrees of separation.
Yeah.
What went well, what didn't. But what really speaks to me in the way that you do things is that we take these tools, and a lot of times we have the tools, but we don't know what to do with them.
Mhm.
Or we hesitate with the tools and we go, well, I don't know if I'm ready for that yet. And what you do really well is you say, well, here's the tool. Here's a business builder accelerator. We're going to talk about it. Here's our one-on-one time. And then now we're going to bring this tool in to where it takes all the guesswork out. And now I can be intentional and I can make decisions quickly. And I think that's where the most benefit is for me.
Love it. Love it. That's so great to hear. That's exactly what I'm aiming for. So that's a great pitch on Business Builder Accelerator. Also, by the way, for anyone watching who is a leader, leads a team, or knows somebody who needs their team to really be operating at a higher level, hit up Daniel. We'll put your info in the show notes here so they can contact you. But for anyone who's watching till now, they're probably on the fence about maybe joining Business Builder. What would you say to them from a perspective of like what got you over the hump, or what would help them make that decision?
Yeah, I think the biggest reason that I stepped forward is because of you, Steve. Quite frankly, I think, one of your core values was transparency and honesty. And I think you display that in a way that I don't think I've ever seen before. And I remember being on that call and I shared, I'm at a pivotal point in my career and I can't afford to go through some boilerplate. I can't afford to waste any more time. I can't afford to not have the freedom that you offer. And I think what pushed me over the edge is that you really listened to the concerns that I had. You listened to the fears that I had. You understood that, and then you brought me into what you do, and it was all tangible. And I think a lot of times we don't get that. I think a lot of times we sit back and we go, well, in theory, this is what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And in theory, you're going to do well. And in theory, and there is just a vulnerability about you where I just believe that you cared about me. And it was, you have this business builder program. There are so many other people that are in it. And that was a concern as well. How is Steve going to have all this time? How is he going to be able to talk to me and all that? And what you've done and demonstrated is that you care about me more than, the way it feels is more than anybody else. Because anytime I message you, you take all the time that I need and help me along. You give me advice, you give me opinions, and it feels like it's you and I, or sorry, not you and I. It feels like it's you and me against the business world. And what I mean is, you're diving into my business.
Mm-hmm.
And you really look at success as us, not success of, well, Daniel, here's this process, go and do it. But whenever I don't quite hit the mark, it's, hey, Daniel, did I fail you in some way?
Yeah.
Hey, Daniel, how did you feel about the classes? How did you feel about the process? Can I make this better for you? Hey, Daniel, here's this idea for the next quarter planning. Does this work for you? Is this too hard for you? What can I do? Hey, who can I introduce you to? Hey, this would be a good person. And I think for me, if you're on the fence or thinking about whether or not this is worth it, I would just ask yourself, are you willing to take the risk? And
Yeah.
are you willing to jump in? And if you're willing to jump in, just even a little bit, if you're willing to take that next step, I firmly believe in you, Steve, that you're gonna do what you say and you're gonna help that person. And so I just think that's really it.
Thanks, man. Yeah. I say in my offer document that it's kind of like you're hiring me to be your business partner for the next year. And I mean that because that's exactly how I feel about it. With my team, we coach leaders and executives and do culture building. We do career coaching. And more I've started delegating that to other people on the team because business builder is my passion. I've been building the business. I know what it feels like. I've learned a lot and I want to help other coaches build theirs because I know a lot of times they're focused on their craft and they don't
Right.
know necessarily the marketing and the business strategy side. So I love doing this, and I agree with everything you said. Like, this to me is purpose, and it's bigger than just a passion. So I'm all in. But if you're watching this and you do want more info about it, you can check out that offer document. It explains everything by just going over to my Instagram, Coach Business Builder, and you DM or comment the word grow20, and then you get the document and you can check it out. So Daniel, thanks so much. This is like highlight of my week. Such a fun conversation. I know we're going to be doing another one probably in like a few months. So
Yeah, I can't wait. No, this has been so much fun. So I appreciate the conversation and just allow me to share a little bit.
we'll link how people can check out your business and get in touch with you in the notes, as well as anything else that we've mentioned here. All right. Well, cheers to what's ahead, Daniel.
I appreciate it.